The while loop is a conditional loop, which means it repeats a set of commands until a condition remains true. The general form of this statement is given here. Condition is an expression that can be true or false. When MATLAB reaches the beginning of this while loop and before it starts the loop, it checks the condition. If the value of the condition is false, this loop will be never executed. If the value of the condition is true, then MATLAB runs the commands in the body of the while loop once and then checks the condition again. If the condition is now false, MATLAB will skip the loop, otherwise it repeats the commands in the body of the loops again. This process is repeated until the condition becomes false. So, there is a very important point about this type of loops. You have to make sure that the condition will become false at some point throughout the execution of your program. Otherwise, your program will run forever. It is because of this reason that sometimes while loops are called uncontrolled loops. So let's start with the first example. We define a number as a factorial number if it is really the factorial of the sum of given integer. We earlier learned about the factorial function. So far, example 2 is factorial number. Why? Because it is the product of the numbers from 1 to 2. The number 24 is also factorial number. Why? Because it is the product of numbers from 1 to 4. So 20 is not a factorial number. We cannot find any integer n such that the product of numbers from 1 to n becomes 20. Now what's the question here? We are given a number and we want to know what is the least factorial number that is larger than this given number. Alright, does that make sense? For example, if I'm given number 5, then I know that it is not a factorial number. So I want my program to return 6, because that is a factorial number and it is the least such number that is larger than 5. Please look at the function that I have implemented here. The given number is the input of this function and it is named as high. The function itself is called factGTHigh. So how does this function do the job? It starts from 1 and computes the factorial number one by one until the obtained factorial number is larger than the high number. At this point, the program stops and outputs the value of the obtained factorial number. What is the key part here? It is the while loop. In fact, we do not really want and know when a factorial number will be larger than high. So we cannot use for loop easily for this function. Instead, I have used the while loop with a condition. This condition is saying MATLAB has to compute factorial numbers until the first time that the computed factorial is larger than high. This is an example of uncontrolled while in which we know that at some point we should obtain a factorial number which is larger than high.